All right, so welcome to another episode of the Nonke podcast. Real special guest here. I feel like I'm just inviting my whole family here.
Yeah.
But this is my little brother who I love dearly, and we've
Yeah, you can-
we've
it's up to
we've
you.
we've butted heads a lot, but I love him dearly. He's my little brother.
Younger brother by
Yes.
three
Only
years?
2 years.
Only
Only 2 years, so
yeah,
very
pretty close.
so we grew up very
Are you guys
close
the
together.
closest in age?
No, I think me and Mata are 1 year.
Oh, 1 year?
Yeah, and then Siam over 1 year too.
Yeah. So, but yeah,
Middle.
Jimmy, welcome to the
Welcome, Jimmy.
podcast.
What's up?
I've been wanting to have you on, talk some conspiracy, talk about
Yeah,
no,
talk philosophy.
talk about aliens. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah. So me and Jimmy, we used to bodybuild together. So we worked out a ton together. I think I always knew you were the better bodybuilder than
I
I
think Jimmy
was.
went harder than you did.
Yeah,
you could-
yeah.
I remember.
Jim-
Right?
I remember you just continued on a little bit
Yeah.
longer, right?
Yep. Jimmy continued, and he always had the better physique. And so he's taller than I am. He's got the better genetics, better looking than I am, longer limbs, and so he had better proportions than I did. So I always knew he was going to do
You're
better.
taller than Pheng by a couple inches,
I don't even know.
Yeah. Yeah.
and size shorter,
Probably
right?
Yeah.
not by that much.
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
But like you say, in bodybuilding, proportion is important. Like,
Yeah.
you're too stocky, and then it's
Yeah.
not symmetrical
I was like-
enough.
I was like short and wide. I had a fat
You gotta be
waist.
super
Yeah.
white if you're short. Like
Yeah. To
not
make
Ronnie.
it-
Ronnie was big, but like Dexter Jackson stuff.
Yeah.
like those
Yeah.
guys were short, but they're extremely wide.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
they,
so-
they end up doing the best. Like our buddy Pheng, for example.
Yeah.
Lifetime friend. Pretty much a brother to me and Peng too.
Yeah.
But kind of like Tu was saying, he's kind of like the ideal frame for bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to do show after show after show and getting arguably like beat out by these guys, but then after a while you just go all the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
a lot of times these are your training partners. These are guys you see every day,
Yeah.
and you might be training with them every day too. But it's like at the end of the day, it's a very subjective sport.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like in football, if you can't catch a ball, stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to do something. You
That
gotta
was my
figure
thing with
something out.
bodybuilding. I never got into it. I've always appreciated it. I watched
Yeah.
it a lot when I was in the Marine Corps overseas. I'd always watch. Like
Yeah.
that's like 07, 08. It's when like
Yeah.
Cutler and Dexter is battling back and forth
Yeah.
back all the time. But yeah, it's one of those things where like like sometimes I watch like Arnold or whatever, and I'll watch the top 5, and I'm trying to be like, I don't know that much about bodybuilding, but enough to be like, all right, let me try to think of what a judge is looking for,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I see like
Yep.
the spread, right? And I look at all 3, and I'm like, I mean,
Pretty similar.
There's variances,
Yeah.
but everybody looks sharp. Everybody looks dry.
Yeah.
What are we judging on here? Size?
Yeah.
What are you really looking for in this case?
See, yeah, the tough thing, that's why like bodybuilding was tough, because at the highest level, if everyone shows up on stage in shape, super
Yeah.
dry, like now you're
are
looking
you
at
judging?
genetics, because
Yeah,
you're looking
exactly.
at where the muscle attaches, because
Right.
where the muscle attaches, like, is going to determine the shape of the
You
muscle.
can't help if this guy
Yeah.
has more striation than you. Right?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly,
You
exactly.
can't
So
help that.
at the end of the day, like, and I did it 7, 8 years. You probably did it a little bit longer. You get to that point where you're just kind of like, all right, I've done enough.
Yep.
Am I just going to continue doing this at and maybe be a top level local competitor?
Yeah.
And it
Yep.
takes a lot out of you.
Oh, it
You know,
definitely does.
I always say, like, Aaron,
Yeah.
Aaron Canner, like one of
Yeah.
my bodybuilding mentors. He showed me a lot of
Big
love.
old white dude.
Yeah,
Still
yeah.
work out Lifetime Fitness.
Yeah,
and all that.
the big blue Jew, he used to call himself. But he was like Peng. He's like, look at us, like, you want to be one of us in 10 years? We've all made little progress in 10 years. We're all still competing at the local circuit. Do you want to eat 7 meals a day, train every day for the rest of your life to just be one of us? and it put things in perspective because like for me, it was like I was kind of like, all right, I was at a very pivotal moment in my life where I was like, do I continue this or do I just move on to something else? And he was just like, hey, honestly, you know, you graduated college, you got some other things going for you, like, you know, do you want to be one of us?
Yeah,
And he was very honest with me and I was very appreciative of that because, you know, essentially he was talking about himself, you know, about,
He
hey,
saw
do you
his
want to,
story,
do you want to be like me? You know, where he's like a great competitor, great guy, an awesome friend.
Right,
And-
you're a beast inside the gym
Yeah.
Yeah.
versus everybody else.
Yeah.
But then when you go to the stage, can you even get to
Yeah.
levels more than, like you said, more than the local circuit? Yeah.
Yeah.
And to backpack off of that, even when you go to like with that same motto, even when you go to CVS or Target or something, you know, that
Nobody cares.
insecurity, right?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
still gonna play out. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody
Well,
cares
so
if
here's
you're,
my next-
you're the big
so,
shot.
so
in the
here's my
gym.
question to you both, because you guys,
Yeah.
I took it to probably 2% of what you guys did. Do you guys think it is a disorder when you, because we say it's to be better, right? We say
Yeah.
it's to be better, it's to be stronger and shit. But at a certain point, it's kind of a disorder, ain't it? To like always be looking at your macros. Like, are you living?
It's a disorder used to your advantage.
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's
It's
Yeah.
a disorder
Yeah.
used to
Yeah.
your
That's a
advantage.
nice way of putting it.
Because I,
You know, optimizing gain for, you know,
yeah.
the judges' critiques and whatnot.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's like the disorder isn't the act itself. The disorder is just being, because my thing
I
is
mean, it's
like,
a very focused thing. You got to
yeah.
keep it in the back of your mind at all times.
Yeah.
You can't even enjoy, like, you know, it's,
yeah,
Yeah, it's
I-
both.
if you're
It's
real
both
serious,
things.
yeah.
because I would say my thing is taking things too far. Like I have an addiction, so I have an addictive personality. If I do something, I'm gonna take it to the extreme level. And so when I started working out, that's what I did with it. I started bodybuilding. I took it as far as I could go, and then it took a lot for me to kind of go, all right. It took a lot of injuries and a lot of like thinking where I was just like, okay, do I really want to continue this? You know, it's a tough lifestyle, and so like in a way, like it kind of is. Like I don't
I mean,
want
I
to
just
say
always think about it because it's like, it's
It's not the healthiest, I would say for
Definitely.
sure.
no, yeah.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On many levels, it's not.
Yeah,
Like nutritionally, especially mentally.
yeah,
Like the last 5-6 years really put it into perspective. Like I quit, but even before that, probably like, yeah, just about 6-7 years ago I quit. But you know, obviously the lockdown happened.
Turn the mic. Yeah,
The lockdown happened, and you know, long story short, a lot of bodybuilders they either get into it because they had drug problems or they
Yeah.
are in the middle of it really. And yeah, with the lockdown, like a lot of people passed. A lot of people had a lot of health issues. A lot of people had other issues going on, and you know, I don't want to mention any names or anything like that, but you know, the more people that you see are suffering from the thing that you say you love, it makes you really think twice.
Yeah, you know,
about
I've been seeing that a lot lately on
Yeah.
YouTube. I still watch bodybuilding stuff every now
Yeah.
and then. I still keep up
Oh,
with
yeah.
some of the lifters, and that's the conversation like that's been happening all
Yeah.
all around.
one of
like,
the hard
what are people
conversations,
using?
yeah.
Yeah, what do people use?
Yep.
What are people using? Why are people dying so young? You know, and I think social media plays a part too, because now you can build an audience. Like, imagine if you were doing exactly what you were doing, but you add 10 years to that and you're in 2020.
Yeah.
And now you can build your own audience using
Yeah.
your phone and stuff. So
Yeah.
everything plays a part. Maybe that little advantage that you would
Yeah.
not take, maybe you would, because it's
Yeah.
one more step up,
I,
you know?
I always what I always tell people that ask me. I don't have a lot of people that ask me about competing anymore, but I always tell people like you're gonna make more money content creating in that fitness
Yeah, in that
space
field.
than you are competing anyways. So, and competing, it's
I mean,
you know
how much,
it's sickly.
how much
you know?
do you
Yeah.
even win? Let's see.
You
How
don't-
much does
Zero.
Olympia even win?
You don't win anything.
Oh,
Like, let's say
Olympia,
Olympia,
they
the
won-
top of the top.
Yeah.
I think 400 grand.
Okay.
Is it that? Did it go up
It's
to
like
that?
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, Olympia's
Yeah.
big.
Yeah, but you're
Yeah.
the number one in the
Yeah, in the
world.
world,
Yeah,
yeah,
you got to
yeah,
be
yeah.
one of the world out of
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
million
That's-
bodybuilders.
Yeah.
The local circuit is maybe what, $1,000?
No, you don't get nothing.
You just get a trophy.
You don't get
Zero.
nothing. Even at those pro shows,
like
you maybe get
IFBB, that small
$5,000.
IFBB, you still don't make
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
You get like $5 grand if you get top 5 or whatever,
Yeah.
but that doesn't cover your flight.
Yeah, and how much
doesn't,
you spent
you
on
know.
nutrition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably 1 month of nutrition and everything
Yeah,
else.
the
Yeah.
trainer, and so,
Right.
and I get there's other avenues for those guys to make money through sponsorships and stuff like that. But like, truly, like you know, I always tell people when people ask now, like, if you go the content creating route, one, it's gonna be healthier, and you're more likely to blow up over that and be more successful of that. We talk about, you know, when we were competing, content creating was just right around the corner.
Yeah, it was very.
And I think we missed the mark. But I think like, you mentioned Naomi Kong the other day, right? Does that name ring a bell?
More.
No,
the girl, the Hmong girl,
the
Naomi.
female, but she has
She
like,
had like a 500,000 subscribers on YouTube.
yeah. But I think she came out right after she did, but she went hard on the content creation route. And I think that's more
You know what
sustainable.
sucks? You would have been at a perfect time because at the time there were like now I see more Hmong dudes bodybuilding because now with social media I can see more.
Yeah.
But you were getting the attention on at the time and there wasn't as many. So imagine if it was the same thing, but like now you took advantage of that and then you came with the
like
create content creation.
like if I would have went hard
timing.
into the social media side, I think
Yeah.
I'd still probably be doing it now
Yeah.
because like again, it's healthier, it's more sustainable. Your income isn't, or your value isn't based on a bunch of judges sitting on their asses, you know, looking at you.
Yeah.
You know,
So it's timing when you came into the game.
Yeah.
But I feel like social media is tough too because like it's like the Hodge brothers or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you watch them or who was the guy? You get the Hodge brothers. Who's the other black dude that came out at the time? He'd always have a cut off military
Elliot
style.
Hus.
Elliot, yeah.
Elliot Hus.
So those
Oh,
guys,
yeah.
there's almost a pressure.
Yeah.
Like when I
Yeah,
watch them
yeah.
now, I'm like, damn, he's not as ripped as he used to be.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're used to. So it's almost like there's a pressure too. Like if you came in as this
Yeah.
guy, like you almost got to keep up.
Yeah.
You got to keep
but
up. You
are
know?
those guys even
But
talking
eventually
about fitness anymore?
No.
They're not
They
even-
like
yeah.
tackle everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like they're talking about like conspiracy theories. and
Yeah.
tea and
Well, yeah,
stuff.
that's the other thing too.
Yeah.
My favorite guy was bro science dude.
Oh yeah.
Whatever his name was.
Yeah. It was like more like comedy though.
Yeah,
Yeah, because Elliot Host was tight. I remember I used
Yeah,
to watch
he
his
used
stuff
to have a lot of stuff.
religiously. But I think the other day I tuned in and I was like, "What is this guy talking about?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
they
not,
talk
you know,
about
Nothing
everything
about
now.
fitness anymore.
Yeah.
What's crazy about guys like that is I bet you anything that they've made more money
Oh, yeah.
or more successful than 99% of all bodybuilders,
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
strongman,
Yeah.
powerlifters.
Right.
Yeah,
And that's kind of the,
yeah,
that's on one hand the irony, but on the other hand the reality
yeah,
where it's just what it is, So
Yeah.
if you are like, so my advice to bodybuilders, or up and coming bodybuilders, it's like you got to do it more than just like the for the fame or for the money or whatever. Like you got to do it because you love it.
yeah.
know,
If you want to compete,
otherwise-
just put
Yeah.
this a little bit closer to your mouth. Go ahead.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's hard, a 20-year-old,
Yeah.
You remember when we were that age?
Yeah.
Like, you're a dreamer, right? You're
Yeah.
a dreamer. You don't learn your lesson till after.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, you want them to listen to you, but maybe at that time, they're like, man, no, I'm trying to see what
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
be, what I can become.
No.
Story of my life.
Yeah.
I'm a
but
dreamer,
you know,
Yeah.
but at the same time, that's like, for me, yeah. On one hand, that's the story of my life, but on the other hand, that's like, the reality of it too. Like that was my like coming to be.
Yeah,
As
you're,
a- as a,
you're,
you know,
yeah.
Because when I started bodybuilding, what really got me into it, because I started at 18, what really got me like more serious about bodybuilding was actually quitting college.
Okay.
So I was a physics major at the U of M, and so my thing was like, all right, I'm gonna do 4 years because honestly, the 4 years I had a scholarship, I had a pretty decent EFC, so like I didn't really have to pay much. So in my mind, I was getting paid to go to college.
You had a scholarship
So,
to go to school
dude.
for physics, so you were playing a sport there.
What was that?
Like your scholarship was just strictly academics?
Yeah, academics.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Man,
Academics.
you must
So
have been smart
He's
as hell
smart
for
as fuck.
physics.
yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? But so anyways, like I went hard in bodybuilding because like at the time I was lost and I didn't really know what I was gonna do. 2 years into majoring into physics, I knew I didn't want to do it anymore. like I loved physics. I still love it to this day as like a concept.
Yeah.
When I you know, because at that point you kind of have an inside look of what physics
Right.
is. You meet all the professors, you meet all the, like, really, this is my choice. I could either just do research or teach.
Yeah.
Like, this is boring. I don't want to. I don't really want to do this.
Yeah.
Although, you know, I still love physics. I still do to this day, and you know, it's helped a lot with training people that is, and so yeah, that's why I went so hard in bodybuilding. You know, at least when I was like 21, 22, because in my mind I was like, well, I'm not gonna do the school shit. So it's like, let me go in all the way on this, and like, that's what taught me to be like, you know, basically who I am today. Is kind of just taking the harder route and saying, you know what, I'm just gonna take a risk on myself. You know, so started working the front desk at Los. Eventually started training people, and yeah, I didn't technically go to school for like personal training necessarily, but
Did you ever get
I had my own
Did you ever
advantages.
finish a cert or anything like NASM, ASC, or AC, ACE?
No.
Any of those?
All
No?
that stuff is crap.
Yeah,
No,
I
yeah,
know, but-
yes,
yeah,
yes,
I
yeah,
know,
that-
I know,
this is
but,
where we
you
get
know, they make
conspiratorial.
you- When you're young,
Yeah.
like when I was
Yeah.
personal training too, before it's like when you're young and you're like 21, you look up, oh, I got to get my like you don't know, right?
Yeah.
You don't realize that some knowledge is just learned on the field with what
Yeah.
you read. Yeah.
That's just somebody signing a paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not
And paying
knocking.
money, yeah.
I don't want to knock people who go on that route. I know people
Yeah, yeah,
who like
no, it's
swear
still
by
solid,
it. The thing is, you have to read. You know, you have to renew it every other year, and also I feel bad for the people who had like a 4-year
Right.
kinesiology degree,
Kinesiology, yeah.
and they still have to do all these certs.
Yeah.
And you know, and it's kind of. And also in Minnesota, you don't need to be certified to do.
Oh, you
personal
don't in
training.
Minnesota? You don't need to be certified of any kind. Okay.
Um,
Well, that's probably
yeah,
why I
oh,
got jobs. 'Cause I wasn't.
Yeah,
certified.
yeah. Otherwise,
I wasn't
Yeah.
certified either
Yeah.
at the time. So.
yeah. So, yeah. So I just kind of used it to my advantage. The whole dropping out of school thing,
Yeah.
being motivated to do something else, and then like eventually, you know, and yeah, that was bodybuilding and training people.
Yeah.
And,
Did you ever go back to school?
No. And you know, naturally, like especially like till I was like 26 or 27, you know, I always toiled with that idea of
Yeah,
going back
yeah.
to school, but like,
Now you
nah,
now you
now
run
I'm
it
cool
off.
with it.
Good choice.
Because yeah, because I don't know what I would do with the 4-year degree. I'm not
Right.
gonna
Yeah,
lie.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I wouldn't. I love my life now.
Yeah.
If I had a 4-year degree, 6-year degree,
What
I
would it
wouldn't do
change?
nothing
Yeah.
with it. I'd do the exact same thing. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
why put 50K into something?
I've thought
that's
about
not gonna
going
change
back
nothing.
myself, even though it wouldn't benefit me anywhere, other
Mm-hmm.
for the fact that I would just take pride in it for myself to say I have the
Yeah.
degree. But
Right.
then the question is that worth paying money for?
Yeah.
Because my parents really want me to have a degree, right? My
Yeah.
mom, like, to this day, man, even though I've done shit, my
Yeah.
mom's like, no, you got to get a degree. I'm like, but mom, I got a business. I fucking was a firefighter. I
Yeah.
did all these things. I'm good. But she wants me to have it. And as I get older and as I see my mom getting older, you know, I know you guys, I know
Yeah.
you guys' mom passed and stuff like that. And I see my mom
Yeah.
getting older and I'm like, man, maybe I should just do it for the
Make it
sake of
count,
getting
yeah.
it done. Exactly. But then I'm like, but what am I going to, where is it going to help
Yeah.
me? And
Yeah,
then it's
yeah.
like, well, if it's going to cost me money too, shit, is it even
Right.
like, shit, like I don't really need
My
to, you know?
diploma's in the trash, in a landfill somewhere. I don't even
Yeah.
know what the heck that thing is.
Yeah.
It's in the garbage.
I don't know. Maybe I just think that because I just haven't got one.
Yeah.
So I think like it'd be cool to have one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I listen to people like Pheng or my other friends who are like, no, don't waste your
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yep, and that's what like solidified my opinion on the matter was like, you know, 26, 27, 28, you look at all your friends that did graduate,
Yeah.
they're 5 or 6 years into their, you know, I'm not knocking or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
They're 5 or 6 years into their office job, they hate it,
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
It's just like school all over again for the next 20,
Right.
30, 40 years, and it's like, no, I'd rather just do what I want to do.
Yeah, and you start
Yeah.
to understand that like if you have passion, if you're driven and you're disciplined,
Yep.
the same things that you guys both have learned through
Yeah.
bodybuilding,
Yep.
that if you just apply those principles in other areas of your life, then you can find
Yeah.
success as well.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the paper is just honestly, I think it's just a scheme from the top to fucking make money. You know, that's
Yeah,
how it's
for sure.
it's built just so that hey, yo, we need
Yeah.
a business here and we gotta tell kids that they need a 4-year degree. That way
Yeah.
everybody comes through. And then every year the U of M one day was 12 grand a year. Now it's like 18. Now it's like
Yeah.
25. I mean, like
They just
every
make more
year
and more
keeps
money.
going up.
Yeah.
The education didn't get better either.
Yeah. 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 And then if anything, the
keeps getting more
diploma loses
expensive.
its value just
Yes.
because there's like
They're probably printing on cheaper paper these days too.
Yeah.
Like, there you go.
Well, like back in the '60s, maybe having a diploma meant something. You can actually get
Yeah.
a job with it. But nowadays, it's
Yeah, it's definitely not as much of a
yeah,
guarantee.
and it depends like what you go into, right?
Yeah.
But so you're a personal trainer now.
Yep.
Oh, okay,
So
you
you've
still
been
train.
you've been doing that for the past like 10 years.
Since 2017, 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
First few years I was at Los, I was just working the desk.
Yeah. Could we talk
Yeah.
about your time at Los? Is that
Oh, yeah, for
something
sure.
you're?
Yeah, I'm still there too.
Yeah.
Oh, is
'cause-
that where you train?
Yeah.
At Los? Okay.
That is-
Franklin location.
I love
the
that
regional.
place.
Is it Los? And
there's
when
like
we say
12.
Los,
Yeah, they
There's
expanded
like 12 now.
crazy.
12 or
12?
15. Yeah,
Yeah.
across the nation.
oh, across the nation?
Yeah.
That all stem from the one over here on
Yeah.
Franklin?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep. Just 10 years ago. there
all
was only-
from.
Yeah, all from
Yeah.
that.
Phew. I gotta go
Killing
talk.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
he's just pretty good.
To those who are listening who you don't know, we're talking about a gym called Los Caponas that I'll let Jimmy tell it because he trains
Yeah.
there and
Yeah.
I don't know the whole
So-
story. I've just trained there a few times.
Yeah, and like, so I've been there since what, 2013, 2014. Started as a regular gym goer. At that time, there was only the one location on Franklin Avenue. Let's see, I think they added the second location 2015. But anyway, it's like one of the more like grungy, original,
Hardcore
prominent
gyms,
thing.
right.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, it's like if you're thinking like strongman, they have the balls, they have
Yeah.
like they have
Yeah,
the
all the
what
equipment
do you
you could
call
imagine.
the
the
Alice
farmer
stones?
handles.
yeah, what do you call the big beam with the farmer handle that strongmen used to do presses with and
We
stuff?
call it the Viking press.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but we invented our own kind of like shoulder pressing contraption.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
we
I,
call it that.
but like shout outs to Ben and Los Caponas because everybody there was really good. When I was training there a lot, like try to talk to me about personal training. And I kind of wish I didn't take him up on that, and he wanted to help me kind of get things going, and so like always been a super nice to me, a super good dude,
Yeah,
man.
same.
And I'm so glad like that he kind of took you under his wing and kind of showed you a few things too. Same like all those guys there. Yeah, they were. You know, I always talk about my experience in bodybuilding. I met a bunch of great people, and I'm okay walking away. But like those guys were the guys
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
You don't check in with those guys like you at all ever? Like just on Facebook or something? Like, yo, what's up?
I see them. Their posts
Posting
every
stuff,
now
yeah.
and then. But like every once in a while, we'll comment on each other's stuff. But you know, they know I love them.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So,
So
but
Yeah,
you see them on a
yeah,
regular basis,
pretty
right?
much every
yeah.
day.
Yeah.
yeah, so there you go. They know that you still his
Yeah.
brother, so you still
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
technically.
There's still a bridge. There's still a connection. You know.
exactly.
So, yeah, and that's at the same time. That's also just like the nature of the gym. Like I was say it's like it's kind of hard to say hi to people in the gym
Yeah.
because it's a place where like people come to work on themselves. You
Yeah.
know, even the guy who's trying to lose 100 pounds, he's working just as hard as the guy trying to, you know, compete for a show
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
deadlift 700 pounds. You know, so I've been at the gym long enough to understand that, and that's a place that values that kind of work.
Yeah,
ethic.
and has
Yeah.
that culture and made sure that culture kind of stays the same? Because I think sometimes as you grow bigger, and I don't say anything that you don't want to say because obviously you're still part of it and you work there. But like that's one thing too that I've noticed. Like, and this is from my observation. I've seen videos of my buddy. He works out at Los at the former Uppercut in Northeast.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
Northeast.
because that's his Los, right?
Yep.
So like I see that and like I ask him all the time because I remember when I worked out with you at Los in 2011 or whatever. So I ask him like, hey, is this still like pretty grungy or it feels pretty like friendly and shit now when you go there, you know? And so he kind of tells me it's toned down a little bit. And from the business perspective, I totally get it. Like
Yeah.
I totally get that. Like, yeah, that makes sense. You know, it doesn't mean you can't still go there and
Yeah.
find hardcore people or people that work out hard, but you almost got to have a piece. It's just like War Man. Like I tell
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
you got to have a piece of you that's also a little bit more general, a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
You got to welcome
Welcoming to
people.
the masses.
Yeah.
And that's
Sometimes it's too scary.
I think that's natural with any place. Like you go to McDonald's down the street, McDonald's across the state, they're different. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And Los isn't really any different than that. You know,
Yeah.
Los is not an exception to that rule. I think all the Loses are a little bit different.
Okay.
Like in
each
their own
one?
right.
Okay, yeah.
But that's not to say, oh, this one's better, that one's better. I mean, that's very subjective to begin with, you know.
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
end of the day.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that I think it's a great thing, you know, because in my mind, there's something for everybody,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. It's hard to like, because even like a hardcore gym, like even that's like a very subjective statement. Like even during the times where it was hardcore, like you still had some of the nicest people in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So it's
Regular,
like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so-
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess that's just my
So-
perception of what it
Yeah.
felt like.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
coming from the
So-
lifetimes and from the,
Yeah.
you know, so to me, it was like, for me, as soon as I see chalk that's not in a bowl, I'm like, damn, people live hard over here, you
Yeah.
know? Like,
Yeah.
and then, like you said, because I didn't know as many of them on a personal level,
Yeah.
so then it creates my own perception as well because I don't
Right,
know
right.
them
Yeah.
personally like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so your trainer there, that's what you do. That's your full time gig, training.
For the last 6-7 years, yeah. Now it's like part-time training. I
Okay.
only train like 4 days a week, and my wife has a dog walking business for the love of it, and I've kind of like helped, you
Yeah.
know, dedicated like 2 out of 7 days to helping her pack walk. You know, she'll have like 15 to 20 dogs on
Yeah.
a pack walk, so it's like anywhere beyond 10 or 12, it's hard for one person to manage.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
lot
Yeah.
it's a lot of time picking up and dropping off dogs,
Yeah.
and corralling them, you know. And so
Yeah.
so I'm
And it-
dedicating a lot of time to
Yeah,
that.
you guys are killing it with that. But before we get into the dog thing, like back to the gym, you were living at the gym for a little bit, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Can you talk
yeah.
a little bit about that? And again, like share what you want. Like, you know, I don't, you know,
Yeah,
I don't want you to talk about
so-
anything you don't feel
because
comfortable about.
I treated the gym kind of like college,
Yeah.
like in its own right. Like I went there to learn. You know what I mean? Like I went to Los to learn. Like at the time anyway, like, you know, and especially in my mind, I was like, this is the Midwest mecca of bodybuilding.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I am gonna go hard on this bodybuilding shit, you know, I'm gonna talk to the people who are the best in the state.
Yeah.
You know, because at the time the best in the state were all there, you know, all in one building, and like, you know, doing the thing. So I fully immersed myself into that, and you know, I lived the life. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
great. So much so that I lived above the gym.
Yeah.
Which had its time.
Yeah.
Which, you know, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
No,
great.
that's pretty
Many,
tight,
many,
man.
many hours dedicated to that gym and that sport. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy. And it's, even though like, oh, like I'm not doing it now, like it wasn't in vain.
Yeah,
You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
right.
Yeah.
like for me, like looking back on it, like I never really did things necessarily for like viewership or the fame. It was something like I competed because I wanted to compete.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I competed because I loved it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that said, I knew kind of early on that I probably wasn't gonna go pro.
Yeah.
I knew that like my best shot was probably like decently high placing at nationals if I go all the way in, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
there was a point where I took the training, personal training, a lot more seriously than my own, you know, bodybuilding. Because it's really hard to do both, not
Yeah.
just from a financial point, but also like
Just concentration,
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
yeah, because you know, you do really have to put like most of the time of the day into yourself. It's a very, very selfish endeavor.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's even a selfish thought to be like, I'm gonna be a pro bodybuilder one day. you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah. Because I think
Kind of
I
the
think
alchemy
like
in
for our
it.
audience too, like I think they hear that and they see that, but they don't realize like what it really takes to eat 7 meals a day, what it takes to train that much, and then just in your mindset is wrapped around that all day.
Well, or I think about if you just have your friends or your girlfriend and y'all everybody trying to go eat and be social human beings, which is totally normal, and you're like, no, I'm not on that right now. I can't. So it's selfish
Yeah.
in that sense.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're taking away from the fun
Right.
of everybody because, oh no, he's watching his carb intake right now. It's
Yeah.
like, so you're kind of
Yeah.
like doing your own thing and you're
Yeah.
in your own world over here, you know?
It's super tough, and I think people don't understand that, and that's something that like I don't know. It was hard for me to grasp because I was always in a relation. I was dating Barbara at the time, and then there was a time where I neglected my girlfriend at the time. I I didn't spend as much time as I should have with school. Whatever else. But
That's a little bit, but we
Yeah.
speak a little bit now with like being in our 30s with a little bit of maybe a wider lens too.
yeah,
Because sometimes you still gotta like there's like even I think about this for my business, for example. I always think like, and this is something I tell other people a lot of times. I'm like, you got to be a little bit selfish, bro. Like even if it's your business and
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
whatever endeavor you're on,
yeah,
if you're not selfish about it, then
Yeah.
then you're not gonna grow. Like
Yeah.
you have to be selfish about it in
Yeah.
order to find the best version of
Yeah.
yourself in that realm. But at the bare minimum, just be aware that you're
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
selfish.
Yeah.
As long as you're aware
Yeah.
that you have to be selfish to get to this goal,
Yeah.
then you can reshift the balance by
Right,
when you
yeah.
find a day off. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
Yeah.
shift the balance the other
Yeah.
way. You know?
I think that can be a blessing and a curse, especially in a sport like bodybuilding, because, one does not simply look outside of their worldview. If that's your worldview, that's all you know, that's all you see.
yeah,
So how am I supposed to know that I'm actually being a selfish piece
yeah.
of shit?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
in my mind,
When
hey,
you're in
I'm
it,
just
you don't know.
bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just
You're
bodybuilding.
focused.
It's normal that I put 16 hours of my care and time to myself.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
normal. I want to
Yeah.
be a pro. So it's like, how are you supposed to, I'm not saying that's the right state of mind to like have, but I'm just saying someone in that, in those shoes, they're not going to see
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything but that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
tunnel vision. So
Yeah. And talk to me
good
about
and bad thing. But yeah.
when you realize, okay, I wasn't gonna go pro, and then you're just like, all right, I'm gonna go hard in personal training. Like, when did you realize that?
Hard in personal training or
Yeah.
just in the sport in general?
Hard in personal training.
That would be probably a year after college. So maybe like
Okay.
23, 24.
Okay.
I wasn't living above the gym yet.
Okay.
No, maybe I was.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say, yeah, 23, 24, that's when I
Yeah.
started going a little
Yeah.
harder.
And are you still taking on clients now, or?
Yes, kind of full at the moment, like just because I'm reducing the amount of hours that I am training, hours and days. Like I'm there 4 days a week, and I'm only there in the mornings now,
Yeah.
and so it's like limited availability. I'm not really, and haven't really been taking any bodybuilding clients.
Yeah.
Just and not out of like shade or disrespect or anything, more the opposite, out of respect, because it's like I know what it actually takes to do 16 weeks of a
Right.
diet and show and prep and everything like that. So it's
Yeah.
more of I'm not training those types of people because I actually
can't
do
give
understand
that much, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How much attention to detail there needs to actually be.
Yeah.
And so a lot of my clients now are just lifestyle clients, or I'm kind of like a squat technician in my own right. So like if they want to work on their form,
Yeah.
like I train a lot of like, football players or like Olympic weightlifting athletes.
Yeah. Because I see you
power
doing a lot of
every now and
Olympic
then.
weightlifting
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah, that's my thing now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is
that's
that
your thing now?
yeah.
Yeah, is that kind of your training regimen now? Then is that what it like?
Yeah,
What does your
so-
training regimen look like today?
I would never recommend my training regimen to anybody, and I don't say that in a braggadocious
Okay.
way by any means. It's just kind of like where it is now at this point, being like 6 years into Olympic weightlifting, coming from bodybuilding and whatnot. Now it's just like when I Olympic weightlift, I basically just try to lift as heavy as I can for that day. So I try to get like 7 submaxes on a squat, followed by 7 submaxes on a snatch, and then F5 energy clean and jerks. And that's really only like 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a pseudo, I'm gonna get in a lot of trouble saying this, but it's like a pseudo Bulgarian style.
Okay.
There's a lot of different styles in Olympic weightlifting, a lot of schools of thoughts.
Yeah.
One being the Bulgarians.
Yeah.
And don't kill me or nothing, right?
Yeah.
But I
So
feel like my coach is like,
Yeah. That's like
you know,
maxing out, right?
yeah, basically the Bulgarian,
Bulgarian
You max out
style is
3 times a
each
week.
time you go to practice, you're gonna try to hit.
Go hard every time.
Yeah. Okay.
So what they did in the 80s and 70s was they would train twice a day. Every workout that they would do, they would submax. They would do 7 max of sub maxes of front squats, 7 snatch, 7 clean and jerks, and that's in the morning.
Yeah.
And then at night they will come in and they would sub max. That's like the most you can
When
do.
you say, okay, sub max is like the 100% of your one rep max, or it's like a 90% of your one rep max?
100% is the moment.
Okay,
Yeah.
100%
So
at
not
the moment.
like if it's all time, then obviously that's
yeah,
the
that
best
depends.
whatever,
Yeah.
but it's just 100% of what you can do right then and there.
Mm.
So in the evening session, it's squat, 7 sub maxes, snatch, 7 sub max clean and jerks. So you're basically maxing out like
Yeah, all the time, all
60
day long.
times
all
a
day
week.
long.
Yeah.
Minimum 60 times a week. So that's a true Bulgarian program. Now, like my emphasis with training, like why I'm kind of pseudo adopting that, is I'm kind of just trying to build like joint rigidity and toughness. I don't really care about aesthetics anymore
Yeah.
or
We're getting old.
anything like that. Yeah, I'm getting
Yeah.
old, so it's like I'm more so just trying to fortify my joints, build some resiliency.
Yeah.
Because when you're doing years and years of hypertrophy work, you're kind of like a lot of the
Hypertrophy
work
is
is
developing
bodybuilding.
muscle,
Yeah.
growing muscle. Yeah.
you're like doing half reps. You're not fully locking things out with a lot of weight.
So what do you? So let me ask
so-
you this now.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Because you come from two worlds,
Yes.
and Olympic is all about ankle mobility, knee
You get
angles,
him
all that,
into
right?
a lot of trouble with
No,
that.
but because I'm
with
legit
some,
curious.
with some
because-
gym goers.
because I've been interested in all those. You know,
Yeah.
never to your level, but I've always been interested in.
Yeah.
When I was CrossFitting, well, obviously Olympic lifting was in there somewhere, and then now I'm training for a marathon. So like they're all so different, and they all like one hinders the other.
Yep.
And as I get old, now it's just longevity that I care about. Longevity, mobility, living life healthy is all I care about now with age. So what do you? Well, I guess I don't even know where I'm going with my question anymore. But
Yeah.
it was to just talk about like
Comparing
the
the two.
contrast. Yeah, the
Yeah, like-
contrast of
So basically, like, how do you periodize what you want to do versus like what you want out of your training?
Yeah.
Like, because kind of like you mentioned, like bodybuilding and Olympic weightlifting are like completely opposite ends of the spectrum
yeah.
in terms of like your physical output, what you're doing in the gym and whatnot. But to me, in my mind, anyway, you can use that to your advantage, because if you look at like how strength in general works, like kind of like as a concept, like you're always okay, strong relative to what?
Right.
What are we talking about here? So I didn't realize how weak I was, even though at like 25 and 24, I'd already been lifting weights for like 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how weak I was until I did a class of yoga, and I was
Yeah.
getting showed up by like 50, 60-year-olds.
Yeah.
And it was my first class of yoga in the middle of bodybuilding who's my wife now, with Samantha, and it was like I was getting left in the dust. Like these are 50, 60-year-olds. Like, why am I completely underperforming? Why am I huffing and puffing, et cetera, et cetera? So it was like a truly humbling experience, and that like opened the door for me. Like holy shit, I'm actually like extremely weak where I'm weak, and strong to a fault almost,
Right.
to where I'm not even mobile, not even flexible anymore.
Yeah.
And so that kind of began my my journey out of bodybuilding, in some respects. Too.
What was your journey out of bodybuilding partially in was it like I'm getting older and I realize I'm not going to reach this top of the heap that I'm looking for? Was it my joints are starting to give me too many issues and I can see that this is going to go down the wrong like it's going to just give me long-term problems? Like, was it a combination of all those plus your age plus like the cost of trying to be good? Like, what is it about? Like, which factor really drew it in the sand for you to say, like, you know what, I'm gonna just chill out a little bit on this, or is this I've been trying so long, I'm good?
How controversial do you want to get?
That's not your opinion. I don't really. To me, that's just controversy. I just want to hear your opinion, and you can share it, like Pheng said before. It's only as much as you want to share.
To put a long story short, I was basically just dying. You know what I mean? Quite literally and quite figuratively, because it. Beyond it being a sport that takes a lot of time out of you, it requires you to basically be extremely selfish. There's a lot of drugs in the sports. In the sport, especially in the sport about. I mean, there's a lot of drugs everywhere. There's a lot of cheating everywhere, et cetera, et cetera. But in this sport specifically, it is what it is. There's a lot of drugs. If you want to even be good, even at the local level, you gotta
go do something.
Oh yeah. And that's just kind of what it was. And And like when I say that I treated like my vocation as like seriously as one would treat college, like I definitely did. Like I studied up on it, et cetera, on the nutrition and everything too, and the training alongside with it. I studied that too.
Yeah.
And yeah, long story short, what got me out of it was like I noticed that there were factors of my health
Yeah.
that just was not normal for a 20-something-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, and lo and behold, you can, you know, go on whatever page on Instagram and see 20-year-olds dying from the same sport that I'm talking about. You know, it's not a huge surprise in my opinion. But that said, like I was just open and honest with myself. Like it wasn't just like, oh, I can't be a big giant pro one day. It was more like I'm gonna fucking die if I continue this trying to
and I'll talk about it too.
Know?
Like I definitely like I use steroids. Like I definitely did. But you get to that point where you have to ask yourself, and I, you know, this is where what a lot of my friends also told me at that high level was, I was using a decent amount, and then you just have to ask yourself, how much are you willing to use to only get to like a certain level? You know, because I had friends that were taking extreme amounts. I thought I was doing a decent amount,
doses,
but I had friends that were doing extreme amounts.
Oh yeah. I don't think you were doing that much.
No,
looking back now, you weren't doing that much.
I mean, so I was just dipping my toes in, I guess. But you know, you have to ask yourself at that level, am I willing to take extreme, like use that much?
Are the side effects worth whatever it might
to only compete at a local level? Because I had friends competing at a local level that did a ton of stuff. If you looked at their cycle and you looked at like Olympia level cycles, like, you know, they were kind of comparable, and you realize like, oh, it's not how much you take. It's just kind of like if you've got it in you genetically to grow big, round muscle bellies, then yes, you're gonna go far. But if you can't even, if you're taking large amounts of this stuff and you can't even compete at a local level, that's when you really have to start to ask yourself like, oh, do I really want to do this? And do I really want to take this further? And I have never said that out loud, but like, I don't want to beat around the bush, but that's one of the that was one of my main reasons for leaving. It was just like, do I want to take it there? It's like I got my foot in the door. Do I want to take it to that level? Because you're talking about, I don't want to get into numbers, but we're talking about a lot, you know? And so, you know, that requires money, that requires time, that requires a lot more.
Are the sources, a lot of money. Are the sources of these?
You could say it.
No, like like the drugs, right? These drugs that come on the market, like I'm sure some shit comes from like China and like all over the place. So like, how do you even know? How do you know what's like? What you're really truly getting?
Friends cooking it in the kitchen.
Like, how do you know? Yeah, how do you know what you're truly getting? And so then there's a huge risk in that. Just the fact that you don't even know like what you're really taking, all for that one quest. That, like you said, if you know that your quest ain't even gonna take you to the heap of the top of the heap, then is it really worth it? Yeah. But then, so what's the factor that causes people to still do it? Is it ego? Is it too much belief? Is it you know?
It's the same factor that makes a crackhead smoke crack.
Yeah.
It's the same factor that makes somebody who partied too goddamn much go party again. Yeah. It's the same shit that makes, you know, it's the same thing. It's just addiction to fame. You know, lifting, and obviously lifting feels great.
Yeah.
Put some sauce in you and it's going to feel like,
even better.
Oh my God, do it.
Yeah, I want to try it now.
I'm not, and I'm
no,
I don't want to.
I got you. No, but here's the thing: is like a lot of people. Like I came into crossroads. I think every bodybuilder gets into that crossroad. You're already like 5 years into this thing. You've dedicated this much of your life and your time into this. Do you really just want to stop?
Yeah.
You know, or do you just take the next step? And I think when you get there, you just it's easy for us on the outside looking in to go, oh, obviously don't do it.
Yeah,
but
when you're
in it, you're like, this is my world.
Well,
I'm
also,
trying to.
Sometimes
I'm going
your
to
identity gets so attached to whatever you're doing, right? Like for me, I'm wearing this. I'm no longer a fireman, but when I was a fireman and before I left to come be a full-time business owner, a big piece of me was like, man, I'm also going to leave a piece of my soul behind because I've identified. People know me as this. People know me as that. I think like a fireman. I'm a fireman. So like you, and now that I've left, I'm like, for what reason was I thinking like that?
Yeah.
But when you're in it, you're like, no, this is me, man. This is my pride. This is who I am, you know. And so we hold on to that as human beings.
Because I could tell you, like,
we
leaving the first 3 years of stopping competing, 3-4 years was the toughest time of my life.
You
Because
feel like a traitor.
yeah,
You know,
and you slowly watch your body deteriorate, and then like you still have people that like know you from your past life that goes, oh, you still competing, especially like
That must
being,
be the mo- that
being
must be
so
the-
Ever. They do that now.
Yeah, that must be the most common
Hey,
thing
are you
ever. Like,
running?
oh, you're that guy, the bodybuilder guy, right?
Yeah.
They look at you and then you're like, he's already judging me.
Yeah.
Like, he can tell I'm smaller.
Because now the second question is, are you still lifting? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you okay? You lost 50 pounds. Are you all right?
Yeah.
It's like, well,
Yeah.
you don't know the first part. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's like long stories, you know.
But like you said, that's because we tied your identity to it
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
And so did we, though.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
So
we
did
had
we.
our own
Yeah,
identity.
yeah.
yeah, we could.
And
But
so
you know, that's like anybody.
Yeah. You gotta have some of that, yeah.
Not to like throw a red herring out there, but for me, it's like if it wasn't steroids, it probably would have been something else. Like
Right.
I had the background and upbringing to where like I had a lot of rage growing up.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
That's
yeah.
just what it was. And it was going to be channeled somewhere.
Right,
And
right,
thank
right.
God it was something, you know, like steroids, and ultimately just something that just involved myself and nothing like crazier.
yeah.
You know, and you know, I really did become a man after it was all said and done, and that was kind of the last thing I had to push away in order for me to, you know, grow up.
Yeah.
You know, because the whole time I was doing it, I was never like, oh, I'm doing drugs.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
until after I was done where I was like, fuck, I was doing drugs.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
In the moment you're following, that's the quest. That's
Yeah.
what it takes
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like, and just one more thing, I don't want to say it like I don't regret it in that like I'm glad I suffered and learned from my suffering. It's not something I would ever advertise or recommend for somebody, even if you're whoever's listening, or even if you're into HRT and TRT, I still actually wouldn't recommend that, even if you're like 40 and 50 years old.
Oh, that's
You know,
good
which
thing
is a
for
whole
saying that,
separate
because I was just
conversation.
about to
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
I plan on taking TRT, not now, but when my levels show naturally low. But now that you say that, now I got to do more
Yeah.
research.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say is do more research.
Yeah.
For me personally, I don't think I would ever get on TRT, even though I've had some codependency on it for a little while there, and that's just my personal belief. Like I think once you do their own research, once you find like natural ways to boost their natural
Yeah.
testosterone levels up, whether that means sleep more or eat better, or like do those things first
Yeah.
before you start.
Well, because I
injecting
would
yourself,
assume,
you
like
know?
all things, if you get dependent on something that you use, now you almost can't get off.
Yeah,
right.
Now
'Cause
you're
now
hooked up,
you're
hooked up to the
yeah. Now
pharmaceuticals
you
forever.
can't
Yeah.
stop.
You know,
Yeah.
and that was one of the main. There's many reasons why I stopped, right? But with my thinking at the time, I was just like, I have a mother who was at the time, for a long time was hooked up to the pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it was hard to see, and it's like after a while, I was like, oh shit, I'm doing that now. I'm
Yeah.
walking right into this pitfall.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? So it's like I had to use that to like cross-reference and figure out what I actually wanted in life, and that part is normal for a 20-something-year-old,
Yeah.
And I'm just glad I found my way out of it.
Yeah.
So
Here's
Yeah, that's
another
hard.
question that's kind of separate but along the same lines,
Mm-hmm.
because I know it. Because now, after just talking to you for a little bit, I can tell you go deep into studying these things. In the Olympic lifting world,
yeah.
are all those drugs kind of in the picture? Or not really.
Do you really want us to ruin your idea of sports?
No, I
We're
mean,
gonna
I think-
ruin your idea of sports and
I just
fairness and
assume because
competition.
I think because it's
You'll never
Olymp-
look
I
at
think
competition
because
in sports
it's
ever the
Olympic.
same ever again.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
there's got to be
I'll put it-
everything in
yeah.
everything.
I'll put it this
At the
way, 'cause
peak-
everybody's
at the
on
peak,
stuff.
I'll put it this way, man, and I'll expand it beyond the realms of Olympic weightlifting because it, like Pheng says, it is prevalent in every sport.
You think LeBron James
Any-
doing that well
yes.
because
Yeah.
Anytime you see somebody
That guy's
completely
40.
rupture their ACL or
And then come back
something
in
worse,
7 months, like
come
Aaron
back in
Rodgers.
or 7 weeks,
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers.
Something's
yeah,
going
for
on.
7
Yeah.
weeks.
you know what I mean? And when you are in this world, you figure out a little
Yeah.
bit of the science of like half-lives, how easy it is to pass certain drug tests.
Yeah.
Secondly,
There's
how
so much money
expensive
involved.
it is
Yeah.
to test for even like HGH or test for this
Right,
compound
right.
or that compound. I mean, even when you go to like a local like natural powerlifting event, they only drug test 1 or 2 guys. Why? Because it's so goddamn
Yeah, it's
expensive.
to-
It's
to
a local
test
meet.
everyone.
They don't have money for that. So 1 or 2 guys are getting tested. That's already maybe like a few grand.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you think it's more strict at the Olympic level?
Yeah, but they're still getting away with
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I mean,
Right, they know timing, like you said,
yeah.
half lives, I understand.
and also you can only
That
really
means they
drug test
also
for
have
certain sports.
They also have more resources to like,
Yep.
beat everything.
Yeah,
you have an
yeah.
entire country trying to pass a drug test
Yeah.
for one athlete, you know?
yeah, exactly.
And so it's
We
like
need you,
probably
we
going to
need you.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't know if you guys seen Icarus. That's
the bike
Which
racing.
one is that one?
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
bike racing one where it was a documentary about how Russia was like banned from the Olympics in 2008.
Was that the one where they were like doping by recycling the blood? Like,
Yeah,
they were like
well, I think that might have been bigger,
That's the
fast and
biking
Strong.
one. That's the biking. Yeah. That's
the one where they're
That's
like
how it started.
reoxygenating faster.
Because they were like, because it started out as a documentary of this guy like trying to, what was he? He was what's his name again? Lance Armstrong. He was
Yeah.
interviewing Lance Armstrong. Who was like talking about like, how he was able to like pass all these drug tests or whatever. And he was
Yeah.
like, okay, talk to my guy who was this Russian guy who was in charge of the USADA doping agency at the time. And so basically the documentary,
conspiracy now. You wanna get-
yeah, it expanded into basically this like wild goose chase, like because I think the Russian organization like found out that he was like basically a snitch.
Yeah, he was the
Trying to kill him.
whistleblower.
Yeah, he was a
Yeah.
whistleblower. And then, long story short, they got banned at the 2008 Olympics because they were like switching out urine tests and whatnot. And so basically, when you take a urine test, you have to give 2 samples. One is immediately drug test for, if it's 2004 Olympics or whatever, they'll drug test it for that, and then they'll save the other sample for the future. Meaning, like, this is why, like, sometimes you see somebody get popped like 10, 12 years later.
And
They're
like,
looking at the
lose their
second
medal
sample.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look at the second sample and say, "Hey, you were actually on this, and that,"
Yeah.
which is now banned. But
Right,
at the
right,
time,
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
technically
our test
probably
got
should have been
better
banned.
or should,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. So they were. So that's basically what the Russians were doing. They were swapping out that second bottle
Yeah.
with, whatever
Yeah.
else. So
Like I said, you want us to ruin sports for you.
yeah, it's so
Yeah.
easy to pass.
No,
the
I
drug
mean, I
test.
just
That's what
assume
I'm
when
saying.
there's that
It's
much money in
extremely
anything,
easy.
Yeah.
of course
Yeah.
it's never going to be clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can't be clean when there's that much money. I mean, athletes, the older I become, the more I look at athletes as like, no, you're a gladiator in a ring that we've modern day made okay.
Yeah.
But look, bro, you're a product that we've created.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a reason there's so much
Yeah.
money in this because there's a reason we create academies all over the world
Yeah.
looking for the best soccer player.
Yeah.
Because we know
Yeah.
then when you're the shit, we're gonna take you
Yeah.
and we're gonna say you have no more rights. All the rights belong to us, but we're paying you $200 million for 4 years,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah,
no one
right,
who's
right,
gonna
right.
say no to that. Everyone's gonna be like, okay,
Yeah. Like,
you know?
There are billions of dollars on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
if your guy wins or
Not
loses.
just that, then you tie Vegas to it, you tie all
the
these other
bets.
things to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think, well, even just like on a personal level, there was a question that was asked. I forget what documentary it was, but the question was, if you're like third year pro in the NFL, right? You're used to making X amount of money.
Yeah.
Are you really gonna not like? Are you really not going to take a drug to allow you to continue making money and to allow you to continue taking your career? Because there's a younger, stronger,
Yeah.
faster guy coming up and
And
taking your
plus
spot.
they know
are you
that-
really not going to do that just to maintain.
Yeah,
your
and they know
lifestyle.
that if you're there, your personality type is that
Yeah, you
personality
wanna
type
win.
anyway.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're a competitor
'Cause
all the way
supposed to-
through.
You're supposed to do anything,
Yeah.
to win, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what we're
yeah,
taught.
yeah,
right?
exactly. That's what you're
it's,
taught.
It's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy to
Yeah.
muddle the mixture
Balance
and
is
be
not
like,
in
well,
the
I'm going to take
question.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Balance is not part of the equation.
Yeah.
No, and I think to what Peng was saying too, there was also another question asked in, I think it was Bigger, Faster, Stronger, where
Yeah.
they asked a bunch of Olympic competitors, like, if a gold medal was guaranteed, would you basically take anabolic steroids if it meant that you were going to die in the next 5 years? I think like 95% of people said yes, that they definitely would.
Yeah.
That they would sacrifice the rest of their
For
life for a
glory.
gold medal.
For
just for
yeah,
glory.
yeah.
For
then-
glory.
And they asked Olympic competitors, like some of the best athletes in the world. So it's like they're ready, whether they're using it or not, they're okay with it.
Yeah.
You know, they understand what's going on. So it's not like it's not like it's a surprise to people who are in that.
Yeah.
In the
And
world.
when you're in
Yeah,
that world,
in
you
that
kind of
world.
you understand like
Yeah.
the dirtiness of
Yeah.
it. And like I said,
Yeah.
that's why I think we all reached that point, and I think we made certain decisions, but I think other people that didn't make those same decisions as us, it's
Yeah.
not like they made the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
because
yeah.
you know, like everyone's got to make that decision for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. it's a
So it's like if somebody chose different than what or Jimmy or I did, like it's not to say that they were wrong or they made the wrong
Yeah,
decision.
all,
Yeah.
all the more power to you. Actually.
Yeah.
Matter of
Yeah,
fact, if you want to be like, oh, these guys had to do this to do that, so I don't need it. Hey, all the more power to you.
Yeah.
I'm not like an advocate for this by any means.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you literally what I did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like I need a platform, or it's not like I'm trying to entertain people when I say this.
Shit, I'll say it, man. If you weren't willing to, you don't have that you don't have the winning attitude to like
Yeah.
Yeah,
be
no,
number
for
one.
sure,
If,
for sure.
if you're not, yeah, if you're
If
not
you're about it,
scouting
you
for
should
every
be about
advantage.
it.
yeah,
Yeah, if you're gonna be about it, be about it.
Yo,
Don't be
like,
don't be half-assed.
yeah, that
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was my take on it.
Yeah.
And then I had to live with that for a long time because then eventually,
Yeah.
you know, you live with that competitiveness for a long time, and that's why now I don't care about competition
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I have to remove myself from competition
Yes.
totally. Otherwise, in all forms, otherwise
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
like
You go
I
in.
Otherwise, I
I'm
become a
going in.
monster again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you go in,
yeah.
you go in.
Like
I become a monster.
I have to be careful to not turn this thing on, you know, and so that's why I avoid the gyms now. you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
Even like
But
that
it's
one
like
time I
Mike-
started working out and I was like, oh, dude, I'm
Yeah.
starting to get the feels back.
It's like Mike
Oh, yeah.
Tyson when he was on Rogan and he would say like, "Oh no, I either don't
I get
fight
that.
or I do. Because
Yeah.
if I do,
get
then
that.
I'm all in." You know?
Yeah.
He's like, I can't even use the elliptical
Yeah.
because I'll get an ego boost on the elliptical.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand that. You
That's
know
why
what I mean?
that's why I have to shut it all the way
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
That's why like now like I don't have a competitive bone in my body. Or like I do.
So do you still have so for you, do you still have like a piece of it where you're like, oh, I should probably do it just to be like as healthy as I can
No,
be?
I
without
have
being-
to. I have to now, and that's where like it's a tough balance where it's like, all right, I am getting old, so I need to stay in shape and I need to take care of
Yeah,
myself.
just
Yeah.
for,
But
like,
how
for
do
your
I do
audience,
this without turning into a monster? You know.
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
it's like anything though, man. It's
Yeah.
like it's kind of like, what would I do if I had $1 billion?
Yeah.
You know, you're never actually
gotta
going to
be
get $1
disciplined,
billion.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
It's still fun to entertain the idea of having $1 billion
Yeah.
and what you would do with it or whatever. But
Well, just gotta have
know.
good values on balance, good
Yeah.
view on balance. and,
Exactly.
But-
you know,
balance
good
is the
view on
main key.
balance.
Balance.
But
is the
we
magic
got
word,
into
you
the
know?
situation we were because we don't have those blocks. You know.
Yeah. But now it's.
And-
But do you
Yep.
think it's different now
Or
because?
I don't have those blocks.
Yeah, but do you think it's different now because although you know that genetically you have those qualities inside you that led you to be that, you also now have more wisdom where your awareness level will allow you to respect that part of you, that character trait, but then
Yeah.
subdue it.
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I still recognize it as necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
It
still
is what
gotta
it
have
is. Yeah.
Yeah, the competitiveness you still got to utilize in other
still
areas
there.
of your life.
Like,
It's still there, but it doesn't. It's still there in that like I'm still lifting.
Yeah.
And you know, even with the dog walking thing, anything I do is gonna have a flavor of what.
Yeah. The flavor of that, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
having been a bodybuilder.
yeah. You just have to redirect that. And
Right.
Yeah.
I think
So are
we
you
all
afraid
found
that you're not gonna be able to redo that?
to do what?
To be able to like balance yourself out?
Um,
Like you don't trust yourself yet?
I don't know yet. I don't. I haven't figured that out.
Yeah.
But as far as like fitness, like I know
I don't know. You
yeah.
were running a mile. You ran a mile and a half last week.
Yeah.
I figured maybe you're gonna keep going.
Yeah,
Keep doing that
I
some more.
I still plan to.
Yeah.
And I did run another mile and a half the other day, but I usually run in the morning, and then it got really dark.
Yeah.
Something, but I'm gonna start running. I'm gonna keep running. But I think running is like a safe thing for me, where it's like
I don't know, man. I just watched a documentary of some
Yeah.
chick running 240 miles.
Yeah, but that's the
yesterday.
thing, though. That's the thing. Like, if I start running,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Because
want to
sometimes you
just do a
wanna test
marathon.
your-
I'm gonna fucking
Yeah,
go
you
for
want
it.
to test your
But
own
it-
mental. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then same thing. Ego attaches to that, right?
Yeah.
You run a marathon.
Yeah.
Now I've ran
Yeah.
10.
This
now I
can
run
be-
50s.
This same mentality that we had in bodybuilding can still be applied to anything.
Yeah.
And to take it to the extreme.
I try to use a little bit of that. I don't think I have it
Yeah.
as aggressively as both of y'all did, which I really admire that you guys have that.
Yeah. It's a gift
but
and a curse, like we always
yeah,
say.
no,
Yeah.
everything's double-edged sword. But like in business, I try to use like some people ask me like I tell people all the time like I'm still super competitive, but it's not in athletics or anything like that. It's in my business. But the spirit, it's the same spirit. I just use it in my business, you know.
Yeah.
So like when I start my business, or it's like I tell you sometimes when I see like other things that that are similar to what we do or whatever, and I'm like, no, I want to compete because that's just what that's what drives me to.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I think
yeah.
the essence of that comes before you having been a firefighter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The factors that made you that way have nothing to do with firefighting.
Yeah.
And so like that's kind of the same for me too. The factors that made me go in the way I did for bodybuilding has nothing to do with bodybuilding. And that essence is still alive in everything that I do.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's something I carry like in my heart and
You think that's your personality type?
Yeah.
It's
called
called
trauma.
or trauma.
Yeah, that too.
A little bit
Everything
of trauma.
between that
Yeah.
too.
That's why you just gotta go. That's why I just gotta go down to Mexico sometimes, find a ayahuasca retreat, and just learn.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever done DMT?
I've not. I've done shrooms a bunch of times. I've always had a good. Well, I've had some bad experiences too, but it depends. It depends what my mental state is. I've done mushrooms once when the
like
last few
mushrooms.
times I didn't really enjoy them too much, and because I think that my brain's damaged from firefighting. Like legitimately, I think my brain's
You see
damaged
some
now.
dark things.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, when you go into a psychedelic trip, sometimes your mind, like, all the doors open, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no door that's shut.
Yeah.
And your control of opening that door is, like, kind of not there all the way. And the
No.
last few times I was like, man, my thoughts can go pretty far.
Yeah.
And they always do, but I think because I've seen people shot, stabbed, hung, because I've physically seen those, that database is stored in my mind. So
Yeah.
when I take hallucinogens,
You just unlock all of
it
that.
can unlock
Yeah,
them. It
yeah.
can unlock them, and you
That's
don't
kinda
know where
scary.
it's going to
Yeah,
go. So
that's
it's a little bit
scary,
scary. So that's why now, although I've always been a proponent of it, now I'm starting to be like, maybe
Maybe it's better if it stays locked
maybe
up.
exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
yeah,
just better
yeah.
to respect it.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, it's not that I won't do it again, but I think now if I do it, it's very micro dosed. It's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
chill
Yeah,
mode.
very
it's
controlled
very
setting.
just
Yeah.
go fishing
I
and
mean,
just a little
it's
bit.
the same thing. It's the same thing
nothing crazy.
with therapy, right? I'm sure anytime you go to therapy, it's just like it's gonna get worse
you can
before it
unlock
gets
some
better.
doors.
You're gonna
You can
unlock a
unlock
lot
some
of these
doors,
doors.
yeah.
You're gonna uncover a lot of these dark things. So it's gonna get a lot darker until
go
it
back
gets
to your
better.
question, I'm
So
afraid of
maybe
DMT.
you just gotta take more.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe you just got to do DMT.
Yeah, just
I've
double the dose, man. Hey,
DMT
we always say
I will
lower the
cross
reps
that
and
road.
double the dose.
Yeah, I will cross that
Yeah.
road of DMT. I just not. I haven't crossed it yet, but I know that I will.
Yeah.
Because I've heard so many things about it, and I think I'm having open mind enough to and also I have an understanding of myself that I'm not such an addictive person that I wouldn't do. Like some people might say, "Oh my God, you're gonna do drugs." Yeah, but I also know that like I'm a person that I can smoke weed today, tomorrow. I can smoke it for a week straight and not do it for like 3 months. So I know that about myself, because I've tested myself in those areas. Versus some people can't
I do 3 days and I have to do it for the
for the next 3 years.
yeah.
Yeah, so
I'd say hallucinogenics, like at least for me anyway, like there was always a fear with it.
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about? Like I never wanted, like I'm never like, oh, I can't wait to do mushrooms.
Yeah,
I'm always like, fuck. Like I wonder what's gonna happen this time. you know?
Yeah.
And granted, like when I do mushrooms, it's not that often. I go camping or whatever. I'm always outdoors. It's always like
Right,
a controlled
right.
setting. I think
Yeah.
setting
yeah.
setting
Keep
is
it to
very
that
important for
because
that.
I've done it at parties.
Yep.
And it's the worst thing.
Yeah,
It's not the right one for that.
Yeah, I've only
yeah.
done it once, and I was like outside looking at trees and more.
Yeah, but that's the way it should
God,
be.
it's so nice.
That's the way it
Yeah.
should be.
I was
nice.
like, oh man, I was.
Yeah,
I
it's
enjoyed
definitely
it.
not a
Yeah,
partying drug.
No.
yeah.
That's why I think that's where I messed up. The last
Yeah.
2 times was really
Damn.
busy. Like
Like
it's
a
like you
rave or
feel all
something.
the energies.
Yeah.
So like
Yep.
if you feel the energies of the tree, that's great. But if you feel the energy of people have dark
Oh.
sides. You know.
If
You look at
It's
somebody, if they have like an
Yeah.
angry face, it's
Yeah.
like, that'll ruin you for like a
Yeah,
whole
like-
hour.
and you're with strangers, so you don't
Yeah.
know them at all.
Yeah.
And so you can't tell. You lose your ability to make judgment. So you're
Yeah.
kind of like.
Yeah,
You talk to them openly, and you're like, and then you
Yeah.
remind yourself, like, oh wait, I don't know this dude like that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I don't know her
Yeah.
either, and then now you're like,
Forces,
kind
Oh
of,
shit!
forces
like,
you to
where am I?
opt out of
Yeah,
reality.
yeah, that's
you
why it's
know.
better just close friends,
Yeah,
safe space.
controlled,
yeah.
controlled
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah, and by no means are we advocating any of this.
No, we
No,
don't
we're
advocate.
not.
But
We're
I am
just-
always a speaker of drugs
Yeah.
because to me, I am a big believer that like just because the feds will regulate shit as being bad, like I will always be an advocate for some of these drugs. Not saying that I'm for them or against them. I'm just saying that from my experience trying some of them, they've benefited me. Like when it comes to PTSD, there's periods in time where when I was firefighting, I remember one time I had a lot of stress from firefighting. I was having a lot of anxiety, and I'm really not an anxious person.
No.
Like I really don't have that. But at that time, for some reason, bro, I could feel my heart rate be elevated, and all I was doing was driving to my buddy's boat. We were about to go fishing, and I'm like, "Why am I feeling like this?" And it's a combination of everything. And then when I got to that boat, we did a little bit of mushrooms, and the next day I felt like I just hit that master reset on the computer, bro. I was clean, I was clear as day. I was not stressed no more, and I'm like, and then I started doing research. And then I found out that now they're starting to use psilocybin for PTSD. Like that's kind of like they're starting to tie the two together.
Yeah.
And so I just couldn't really speak about it because when I was still firefighting, I couldn't really speak about it.
Yeah.
But now that I'm out, I'm like, it helped me, so maybe it'll help some fucking somebody else.
Yeah.
But maybe it should just be controlled.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's important to say too, because we're not advocating for it. We're just kind of speaking our experience.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
just kind of what it was for us anyway.
Yeah, that's why like every once in a while, like, I see like young bodybuilders who are like, if somebody asks me about it, I kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, you don't want to give
Find
too much
another sport.
opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
in a way, like I kind of want to say, go find another sport. Like,
Yeah.
Go do something else. If you're gonna dedicate that much of your time and that much effort into something.
But you already know,
Go
we
through
all
something
know
else.
through our
Yeah, yeah,
experience that
yeah.
the best way to
Yeah.
learn is you make your own
Yeah.
mistakes and then you
Yeah.
learn on your own, right? So
right,
like-
you can't change
Yeah,
people's
it's like
minds.
I
a lot
love
of
the
times.
drive. I love the determination.
But use
I
it on
love the
something
work
else, yeah.
ethic. But I'm just like, dog, you're walking down a.
Because that's because we know the reality.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
walking
You know,
down
Um,
Yeah,
Yeah,
wisdom
yeah.
comes from after you've done all the super stuff.
yeah.
Let's talk dogs, man. Let's talk dogs because
Dogs.
We're about to get ourselves in trouble.
yeah,
here.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Let's talk dogs, man. So you guys got a dog boarding business now. You guys are out there in Stillwater. Oh man, I've been to your place. I love your place so much, man.
Yeah,
it's,
thanks.
it's so ideal,
So
and I
it's
think you guys are doing a great
dog
job.
boarding. What's the name
Yep.
of the business?
For the love of it.
Okay,
FUR.
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 love
For the
Yeah.
love of it. Yeah.
I think she's killing it too. So Samantha, you and Samantha are doing a great job with it. So you guys board dogs. You guys
Yeah.
do dog walking. And who would have thought, like, what a lucrative business,
Oh yeah. that's a
Yeah,
good
or
business.
Yeah.
well, I don't know. I don't know. You don't. I don't want you to say any numbers or anything like that. But
Yeah.
like, people love their dogs.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
That's
you
the
know,
thing, man.
yeah,
Like people bring me nice cars, but
Yeah.
that's a car. But you bring me a dog, you brought me something more than your child.
yeah.
Some
Bring me
people,
something more than
some
your
people
child.
value their dog more than their children. you know?
Yeah.
That's none of my
Because their
business.
child
but
will
hey.
Yeah,
come back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
The child's gonna give you a piece of his mind versus the
Yeah.
dog is just like
All love. Yeah.
so
And
people
then-
get so attached.
Yeah, and then you own 4. You guys have 4
Yeah,
dogs.
we
on
have
top
4
of
dogs
it.
of
your own.
ourselves. Yeah, 2
Yeah.
ourselves.
So you guys are super busy, man. I did want to ask, like, have you guys ever like looked into like becoming an adoption service or anything like that? Or
This is the part where we get extremely controversial, right?
Yeah.
No.
oh, okay,
No,
okay.
but I don't say that. I
Kinda
say that
shady
slightly in
business.
jest.
Kinda
but
shady
yeah,
business, right?
it's
Yeah, yeah.
it's a very
I remember I adopted a dog. It was kind of shady.
it's a very like guilt provoking
Yeah.
business that's kind of like at the same time you can't fault them because a lot of these adoption places have hundreds of dogs that they have to see
Yeah.
a day, especially like post
Wait, so
lockdown.
run me through the system. This is a place where you
Where
get
they-
stray dogs, or people don't want the
Yes,
dogs anymore. They
people
give
don't
it
want
to
the
you,
dogs
and now
anymore.
you make a business out of it, and then you start slinging the
Well,
dogs.
I think
Kind-
that's
Okay.
what makes it harder.
Yeah. That's the unethical
think-
side. Yeah, yeah.
I think that's what makes it harder is you can't really make a business out of it.
Yeah.
And you end up giving these dogs away, and they end up coming back or something because
Because the
the
person
owner
taking it
doesn't
is
like them or
never-
something,
yeah.
or oh, this dog won't sit. It's like the worst reasons.
And then what happens if
know.
like no one takes? How many? After how much period in time do you just say, okay, now we're
Well,
euthanizing?
yeah, you euthanize them and you become soulless. That's what happens,
Oh,
for a lot
yeah,
of people.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
so
it's-
so
that's
you
just
guys
kinda
you
the
guys
nature
don't
of
want to
it.
go enter that route then.
No, and
Yeah.
for that reason right
that
there,
reason,
Yeah,
because to an extent you have to figure out right away, like, am I helping this problem or am I kind of just part of
'Cause
the
if no one takes the
evil
dog, then
cognition
you-
of it?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
gotta keep it, right?
You
If
gotta
no one
keep
wants
it,
then
or you gotta
keep it.
euthanize
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's what I
Kinda
mean.
the
You gotta
reality.
keep it, but then how many can you keep?
Yeah.
You know, you can't keep 500.
And if you're seeing 100 a day, which is
Yeah.
the reality for some
Yeah,
of
that
these
is true.
services, that's just
And
that's
you're
just kinda
almost
what it
like,
is.
what is that word
So-
when you're like kind of promoting them, but like by taking in someone's dog that they can't take
Right.
care of, you're kind of taking away their baggage. Like
Yes,
it
yes,
should be.
that happens a lot.
It should like what is that word? But like essentially, they're not seeing the consequences of, and they're not seeing the
You are,
reality of
what's
it.
the word?
Irresponsible.
No,
would-
you're
that would
aiding
fit.
into
Yeah,
their weaknesses.
yeah,
What-
yeah.
Aiding and abetting. I don't know.
Yeah,
the-
but
but I see what
like
you're
you're
saying.
taking the responsibility away from them because one, maybe they shouldn't have gotten a dog in the first place, right? And then two, like, all right, I'm just gonna dump this dog off onto this foundation who's gonna adopt them out. They're gonna find great homes for them, yada yada. And then the reality is that dog, the likelihood of that dog finding a home.
That's the
right?
thing, man.
And
Some
then
people-
also that guy that gave you that dog is probably just gonna go turn around and buy another dog.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and they're not gonna be able to take
You're
care of
like, I
them.
didn't
And
like
then
that
it's just
one.
gonna
That happens.
I didn't
cycle.
like
Yep.
that dog. That dog had a personality that doesn't
Yeah.
match our family.
Yeah.
I need a different dog.
Yeah,
happens
and that
all the
that's the
time.
cycle of that's the nasty.
I never
cycle.
think about it because I don't have dogs.
Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah.
My
Yeah.
brother that
Yeah.
that's his world.
Yeah.
Mine is I've never been one. My wife had a dog and my wife was like never again because once she had to put the dog down, she's like
Yeah,
I don't want to go
it's
through that
sad.
anymore. And because I always joke like oh I want a shop pit. I
Yeah.
always joke with that. Like, I want a nice shop
Yeah,
pit.
yeah,
with a
yeah.
shop. When I'm by myself, I can hear people come in. At least my dog will tell me.
Yeah.
But then I was like, no, absolutely not. And then
Yeah.
part of it is I like to travel too, and I'm like, oh man, it's too much work. Now I got to
Yeah.
take it to Jimmy.
Yeah.
Too much work.
Yeah.
And that's true because on the flip side, we can basically never travel.
Yeah,
Unless
no,
we
that's
bring
the
a
thing.
dog,
Yeah.
My brother always
Yeah.
had that issue. My brother's
Yep.
always like, oh, we can't. We got these dogs, and that's why I think that's why he quit doing his business of boarding because you were tied. You
Yeah.
know, you were tied to other people's dogs.
Yeah.
You know, so
And it's probably takes a long time before you could get to a place where you can hire people, right? And
Yeah.
to do that stuff for you. So
What-
like
yeah. One thing I did like about that business though, when my brother was telling me about it, was that you train him for 2 weeks hardcore, right? Boom, I need 4K. I'm gonna train your dog. Blah 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 blah. And then you go home, and then you're not that disciplined of a human being, and then the dog loses all its thing. Well, there's
Yeah.
no guarantee because you're
Yes.
supposed
Yeah.
to. You got to keep up, man.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't just teach your dog for 2 weeks all these commands,
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
take it home and like, bro, remember we feed based on behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, but I love him so much.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but that doesn't work. And then you're like, and then you can't ask for your money back. 'Cause it's like, hey,
Yeah.
that's your fault.
Yeah.
So in
Yeah.
that sense, I was like, that's pretty a genius idea.
Yeah.
That's pretty,
Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, and that's where it's kind of like personal fitness, where it's like every now and then you get somebody that's like, hey, I want abs in 2 weeks. I want to chop off 17% body fat.
Yeah.
I want my arms to be 3 inches bigger in those 2 weeks.
Where
also,
maybe you can do that, but maintaining that is on you. Yeah. You know, I can train your dog to do X, Y, and Z, but for him to continue doing that is on you.
Which means you got to change.
Right.
Yeah.
Not
Yes.
your dog.
Yeah.
yes,
But people don't want to hear that. People want to pay if they want a solution. They don't want to change themselves.
Yeah.
that's kind of what we try to do. On the flip side of the the adoption and everything we've just talked about is we try to work with the people,
Yeah.
the owners. So yeah, we do dog boarding, dog walking, daycare, and stuff like that. But inevitably, you kind of have to do like a large chunk of it is therapy for the owners.
Yeah.
And,
That's genius, man. You just created four
kinda have to do it all
businesses
at
at
once.
once.
Yeah.
and it wasn't like it happened by accident.
Yeah.
You know, it's like at the end of the day, if you want your dog to walk better, or if you want your dog to be able to be kenneled or not potty inside, you kind of just have to like follow the same systems of
you
of
gotta be
dogs.
regimental, too.
You kind of have to meet the dog where it's at, and there's a lot of common themes that you can draw from that, and inevitably you're gonna have to do some form of dog training.
Yeah.
Even if you're just walking them.
Yeah.
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 No. Yeah, for sure. Anyway, this conversation was good.
Yeah.
A lot of deep things. Different from a lot of the conversations that we've had.
I like
Normally
this.
we're a lot more
I like
surface.
this,
Here
yeah.
we dove deeper into certain things that were maybe like borderline, not controversial, honest, real. Just what's happening in the world.
Yeah,
Things that
and
we've
if you
seen
take
in
this as bad, like
That's
I don't
okay
know.
too, though.
Yeah, that's okay too.
That's
Maybe they're just
for
worlds
me.
you
That's
haven't
okay.
explored.
No,
You know?
man.
Exactly.
I
They're just
think
worlds you
you're
haven't
living in
explored.
la la
You know,
land.
it's
if you
like
think,
if somebody wants to be like, oh, Jimmy's a drug addict for having done this, that's okay.
that's okay.
That means you're a good person supposed to call a drug addict a drug addict.
Yeah.
It is what it is, you know.
Well, it's like I said,
It
people
don't hurt
always-
me none.
Yeah, people always say stuff
You know?
like that. Like I always, as I get older, I just understand. And
Right, 'cause
it's the
you're
same
right.
thing. Like when I look at money, because lately I've really been into like learning about money and all those things, and it's
Right.
and I'm just learning. Like even the guy who's got the $1 billion, he's not necessarily
yeah.
happy. And the guy who's super fit, he's not super happy. Everybody's got a part that's happy, a
Yes.
part that's not happy. So just worry about yourself and how you feel instead of like how everybody else is doing, because how you think somebody else is doing it is just your reality and your perception of what you've created. It's not what's truly real, you know. So
Yeah, and to what you're saying, I could have sat here and said, danced around the whole steroid thing, but it's like it's so much more liberating to just be like, hey, this is what it was.
Share
This
your
Yeah.
story.
is what it was. You know what I
It
mean?
was great because like there was a part in the first 30 minutes of the podcast where we did kind of dance around it. Like I think you and I, we
was just
both
like, you know
we both
what?
kind of danced around it, and then eventually it was just like, all right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Let's spill the beans,
I would have
baby.
stopped you if you started giving name numbers and and time of the day you got to
Yeah,
start
yeah.
taking. No,
What you wanna
I
know,
mean, we
Graf?
could,
What you want to
but that's
know?
too much information.
What you want to know?
yeah.
No,
But-
but I think it's liberating to be able to do that.
Yeah, for
and,
sure.
And I think that kind of liberating is extremely peaceful.
Yeah, I think
That's what's brought me
Yeah.
the most peace in the last 5
Yeah,
years.
to just
To just be
share
like,
what you
this is what it
know,
is.
you learned.
Yeah.
This is what
yeah,
it
and
is.
you hear that in this conversation. Like I said, like that first 30 minutes, it was like, no, I was kind of dancing around it. But then once we got into it, I think the conversation like, elevated.
It elevated.
But
Yeah,
because we
100%.
have things to, we all have experiences, and we have this is the real meat and potatoes of
Of a human being.
a human being,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and putting it out there so that other people can learn or not learn from it or whatever. It doesn't matter,
Right,
but
right.
it's honest, it's
Yeah.
real. Versus sometimes, even us, sometimes we do podcasts and it's just like it's like a
Yeah.
TV show sometimes.
Yeah.
And-
So I feel like we're just doing a TV show.
Yeah.
But sometimes it gets deeper like this.
Yeah.
I would say this is one of the deeper ones we've had
Yeah.
in a while. So
And on top of that, if they
Appreciate
like,
that.
kind of like I was saying, like if they do want to be like, oh, he's a drug addict, he's this or that, that's fine.
that's
take
fine.
take
That's
that,
your opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
take that and run with it. Make
Yeah.
sure it makes you a better person. That's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah,
But-
exactly.
But on the other side, if you are on sauce and
Right.
you don't want to be on sauce, and if you're 21, 22, and you're, you find some similarities with my story,
Yeah.
hit me up. You know what I mean? I got a wealth of knowledge for you. You know what I
I'm
mean?
gonna
I got
call
some
you after
resources. You know
I
what I
have
mean?
to ask, do you have a lot of like people hitting you up about like
Oh man,
your experiences with it? Or?
tons.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I still
Tons.
get some every now
yeah.
and then. Like I got one
Tons.
guy recently, and I hadn't thought about it in such a long time, and I was just like, I told him what I
The
talked about.
product now is probably way better.
It probably
What
is.
your boy's
Yeah,
taking.
yeah.
Plus, it sounds like you're taking little bitch doses.
Yeah, no, I was, man. I was, dude. I was look. I was
You
scared.
thought it was a lot.
Yeah, I was scared to dabble because like I was scared to dabble. Man, yeah.
But
yeah.
I think the guys who do the best, and this is how you know they're gonna be like pro level, is even at the lower dosages, they blow up overnight.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
put on a
yeah,
pound
yeah,
a day
yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Our conversation's going on for a while, but I did have this question in the back of my mind. I wanted to ask: how soon can you identify somebody who's got the potential
By
in
their fir-
bodybuilding?
by their first show.
Yeah, yeah.
Before they
yeah,
step
yeah.
on
And that's what I'm
stage.
saying. So
Before they
it's
step on
almost-
stage.
it's almost like you would want to tell somebody like, "Hey,
Yeah.
dude, I think you should stop on this dream," because, but then obviously they're not gonna
Yeah.
listen,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
I've
But
had
I
a
think you
tough
would
time
know.
with that.
You
But-
would know right away, right?
But
Because
now
they
I would appreciate it if somebody had that perspective on me. Because
Yeah.
the guy who's, I won't say any names, the guy who's the best, been the best for over a decade now, we all knew he was going to be where he's at today, and even then some, the moment he walked into the room.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, everybody knew, like, oh, he's,
Well, I
like,
think-
before he even took his shirt off, it's like, this
Yeah.
guy's clearly going to just dominate.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when you find out, oh, he was on nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He was eating-
Now
he
he
was
was
eat-
to be super saiyan.
No disrespect. I love the dude. You know what I mean? I see
Yeah.
him every day. But it's like you were eating
I know.
McDonald's 3 weeks out from the
Yeah,
show,
yeah.
came in shredded.
Oh.
Like, I think you do.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't think you ever met him, but,
Oh.
but yeah.
No,
But
yeah,
well,
it's
like one
like-
guy like Ronnie Coleman, right? Greatest
Yeah.
bodybuilder of all times. They said
Yep.
he was natural until
Until
fucking
the second or third Olympia that he did.
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he had no clue. He was just
He didn't
totally
even know.
like clueless of everything.
He's
And
using
then he
10
realizes,
in the
oh,
world.
everybody is on this.
Yeah.
So if you can get to that level without
Yes.
it, and then when you jump
Right,
on it,
right,
it's-
right.
you're gonna
then
you're
you
just
make
gonna blow everybody out the
10
water.
years of strides
Yeah.
in like 6 months.
Yeah,
Some people just have it
Hey.
in their timeline to become that specific thing. Just
Yeah.
like football players who,
Yeah.
like I remember talking to one of my buddies who he played for the Gophers as a wide receiver, and I was asking him about, hey, what were the other guys like in the locker room? He's like, man, some of the other guys are stuff like. Those guys are idiots, dude. But you put them on the football field,
yeah.
it's game over. You know?
yeah,
These
yeah,
guys will kill
yeah.
you out there. You
Oh,
know?
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, some people are just meant to be that. You know?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
It's just how that's just the way that life works. It's just that it takes a
Yeah.
while for most of us to understand. Like, oh, I'm not meant
Yeah.
to be this.
Yeah.
This is not.
Yeah.
It's I can still enjoy it and I can still go hard, but I have to have a healthy
Yeah.
understanding that this
Yeah.
is where it stops for me.
Yeah.
and that's okay. And that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It
And
takes
if-
a long time to learn that.
And if you do have to learn the hard way, hey, you're not,
Then so-
you know.
Yeah.
You're not
so
alone
be
though.
it. You're not
yeah,
alone.
yeah, you're not
Yeah,
alone.
that
I
was
think
me.
there's
That
so
was
many of us that
everybody,
had
you
to
know?
learn the hard way.
Yeah. Yep.
But
so,
Jimmy, thank you for coming,
Yeah,
in, man.
thanks,
I've been
actually.
waiting
Great
to have this
conversation.
conversation with you for
yeah.
almost a decade now, and
Y'all don't talk
you know
too much?
because we talk, but it's like very
Yeah.
surface
yeah.
level.
Brothers,
you know,
family.
bec-
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what family
yeah,
and,
is.
and you know some of the stuff is
Yeah.
dark stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's dark stuff. And
It
I think
is.
earlier on maybe we weren't ready to talk
Yeah,
about it.
for
Either.
Yeah, and like, you know, backpacking on that, like, you don't want to be a burden a lot
Yeah.
of times when you do talk. So it's like,
Yeah.
when you talk about something this deep, it's like, it's almost impossible to talk about it without sounding like you're a burden.
Yeah.
Or without sounding like you're asking for empathy or sympathy or anything
Yeah.
like that. But the older you get, especially now, it's just like, no, this is just what it is. Kind
Yeah,
of
it's
how
what
we've
it
been
is.
saying.
And-
we're just being honest. We're just talking about our experience.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
And I'll be real too. Like I had a lot of guilt. Like I never wanted to talk to you. Oh, not that I never wanted to talk to you about it, but I had a lot of guilt because I got
Yeah.
you into it.
Yeah.
You know, I know like you eventually became a man. You made your own choices, but
Yeah.
like I had a lot of guilt because like I knew I know and I seen what you went through, and then I was just like, damn, like at the root of it, like
Yeah.
I kind of started that, you know, and then like
Yeah.
I probably showed behavior that probably only made it worse
Yeah.
or exemplified it. You
Well,
know?
I think
and
you
so
see
I
the-
felt a lot of
Yeah.
guilt, you know, and that's why like it was hard for me to talk to you about
Yeah,
it.
if I can say so, I think when you say that, you see the curse in it, I see the blessing in it.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
because it gave me an outlet, and
Yeah.
it gave me an outlet for not just like expending energy and rage and whatever, but an outlet to become a man, an outlet to grow up, an outlet to, because like I said earlier, like I was gonna do what I was gonna do anyway,
Right,
with
right,
whatever
right.
drug, with whatever, whatever, and so it was something that I could not explode. It was something I can implode and find myself.
Yeah.
You know, it was something that allowed me to like to force me and allowed me to like grow up spiritually and like develop myself, cultivating myself into becoming who I am today. And so if
Yeah.
it wasn't for that, shit, who knows what else it could have been. So
Yeah,
that's just who I am and what it is, and so
Yeah.
I see the blessing in it. So at the same time, it's like you kind of have to have both.
Yeah,
That's how the
that's just
story.
the
that's
yeah,
good,
that's
man.
how the story writes itself.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you
You
for
know.
coming on, man.
Yeah.
I
Oh, yeah,
truly
absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, Jimmy. Yeah, thanks for anything you want to promote before
Oh,
we
yeah,
leave
yeah,
at all. Maybe your business or a little. I know we just named it. What? You said?
Yeah.
For the love
You know,
of it.
Yeah,
I know you're not
that's-
taking on any clients, but yeah.
And it's not that I'm not. It's just I don't know. Like I'm not a huge, especially not anymore. I'm not huge on social media. Like for the love of it, Instagram and Facebook page. That's all ran by my wife. If you want to train with me, don't feel free to ask me about even if it's just advice or
How do
anything
they
like that. I
ask?
try to be
Yeah, how
open.
do we
Not on
get a
social
hold of you?
media.
Very true. Come find me at Franklin.
Everybody asks me to contact you, and I'm like,
Yeah.
How do we get a hold of
I
you?
don't know, like, yeah, just hit 'em
Franklin,
up. But yeah,
come through to Franklin.
go.
You know what I mean? We're not as grungy as we used to be. I guess I
Yeah.
think it's a great time at Franklin now more than ever, if I could say so.
Yeah.
I think post COVID, post lockdown, I think everyone's a lot more on the same page.
yeah,
It's not as competitive in general. I think it's one of the more welcoming environments on any business on Franklin Avenue.
I would
you know?
say like it was like
Just
that
come
too.
and check
Like
it
when
out.
I was there, like yes, it was like kind of grungy, but it was super welcoming.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just fuck with me in real life, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Like it should be.
I'm not hard to
Like it
find. I'm
should
there
be in
pretty
real
much.
life.
every day.
Like it should be. Not like this world that Peng and I created.
Yeah. So
Fake social media
Yeah.
world.
yeah. So
Alright.
that's pretty much.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for coming on, Jimmy. Really
Yep.
appreciate
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
dude.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, guys, double
Yeah.
the dose, lower the reps.
Yeah.
Yo, too, I got a major problem, man.
What happened?
Yo, you know how I moved out to the farm a few years ago?
Yeah.
Man, it's an old rinky-dink house. The roof is falling apart. Siding's coming off the wall. Man, you got anybody I can call?
Actually, I know exactly the person for that, for roofing and siding, and they can do your house, residential and commercial work.
Really?
Yeah, they're called Horizon Builders. They're started by local Hmong guys here in the Twin Cities, and they're your go-to guys.
Really? Hmong owned too?
Hmong owned, Hmong operated, and bringing value to Hmong people when it comes to reconstruction.
Hey, that's awesome, man. Yeah, because this is something I definitely don't want to DIY.
All right, so I'll get you the number, Horizon Builders. I'll give you the number.
Yeah, please do. So if you guys have any work that needs to be done on your residential house or commercial building at all, make sure you hit up Horizon Builders.